The day the judge dropped her gavel, the woman who ran my HOA like a private kingdom was ordered out of the $1 million mansion she'd built on my land in front of a packed courtroom. And the whole thing, the glass walls, the pool, the fancy kitchen that looked like a magazine spread, was officially handed to me with a straight face and a couple lines of legal language. No payout to her, no buyout from me. Just, this all belongs to the guy you tried to erase. And I remember standing there thinking, how in the world did a quiet piece of dirt where I just wanted to build a little cabin turn into this circus? So let me roll it back for you, because it did not start big and dramatic at all. My name's Evan Cole. I'm 58, and I've spent pretty much my whole life as a land surveyor and underground utility specialist. You've probably driven past someone like me on the side of the road. Orange vest tripod, with that little instrument on top, slowing down traffic, while everybody curses from their cars. That's been me for decades, measuring where other people's lives begin and end, marking corners for their houses, staking out their fences, drawing neat little lines that say, "This is yours, that's theirs." A couple years ago, after 30 years of marriage, I came home one evening to a stack of papers on the kitchen counter, and a silence in the house that felt louder than shouting. And by the time the ink dried, I was a 58-year-old divorced man, staring at a half-empty living room, and wondering what the hell you're supposed to do when the life you built gets filed under, resolved. You know what I mean. I felt like one of those old houses you strip down to the studs, wiring hanging. No insulation, just echoes. And the only thing that made sense in my head was this one stubborn thought find some ground. That's yours truly. Yours somewhere quiet. Somewhere nobody can yank out from under you with a lawyer and a pen. That's how I ended up driving out to Foxwood County, Virginia, to look at a 5-acre parcel that had gone through a tax auction. Most people hadn't even bothered to bid on it. No house, no mailbox, no utilities yet. Just a muddy track off a 2-lane road. Wild grass, a couple skinny pines, and a little creek whispering along the back edge like it had all the time in the world. And the first time I walked that land with a stick in my hand, like a hiking staff, the air smelling like damp earth and pine, I could feel my shoulders come down for the first time in months. Like, yeah, okay, here I can breathe again. On paper, it was Parcel 43B, Foxwood County. But to me it was, this is where I start over. So I bought it, filed the deed, went out there with my gear, and set my own survey pins in all 4 corners. Checked the GPS coordinates 3 times. Scratched my initials into the metal caps like a signature, and I had simple plans. A little earth-sheltered cabin tucked into the hill, some solar panels, rainwater tanks, a garden big enough to keep my hands busy, maybe a couple rocking chairs on a small porch facing the creek, HOA newsletters, no committee, measuring the color of my shutters, just dirt and time and quiet. Right after that, because life has a sense of humor. An old contractor buddy called with a big job out of state, underground utility mapping for a project in Tennessee, 8 weeks of solid work and good pay. And I needed the money. So I looked at my empty hill and told myself, it'll be fine. Land doesn't go anywhere. It'll just sit and wait. And I locked my truck. Took one last look at that crooked little survey stake shining in the sun, and drove off thinking the quiet was safe. 2 months later, I was living on burnt coffee and motel pillows in Knoxville, finishing a long day in steel-toed boots, sitting on the tailgate of my truck outside a cheap motel, scrolling my phone just to keep my brain from chewing on itself. When a notification popped up from my buddy Mike. He's a retired electrician who got into drones the way some guys get into golf. His message was simple. Got a cool shot of your parcel with the new drone. Check this out. And there was a video attached. I thumbed it open, expecting to see the same trees and creek I'd fallen in love with. Maybe a nice sunset over that slope, where I'd planned the cabin. And at first, that's exactly what I got. The drone gliding over the woods, evening light washing the tree line, the creek flashing silver. Then the camera tilted, and the view drifted over my land. And my brain actually refused to process what my eyes were seeing. Sitting dead center on Parcel 43B was a full-blown 2-story mansion. Glass and stone black metal roof, a huge deck hanging over the hill, and behind it, a kidney-shaped pool with water glowing orange in the sunset. There was a perfectly paved driveway where my muddy track used to be. Path lights, pristine landscaping, the whole real estate magazine. Fantasy, and for a good few seconds I thought, okay, Mike, messed up the coordinates. This is someone else's property, right? But then in the lower left corner of the frame, I saw it. One of my steel survey stakes. The cap tilted just a little in that weird way I do. When I'm hammering alone, my initials scratched into the metal, sitting exactly where I'd left it now in front of someone else's million-dollar project. I replayed that 15-second clip over and over, and with each replay, the house stayed there. Didn't shrink. Didn't vanish. My throat got tight. My hands went cold. And somewhere between the third replay and the 10th, the panic slid out, and this very quiet, very sharp anger slid in. Like somebody looked at my stake, my land, and just decided, yeah, mine now. And I remember saying out loud into the empty parking lot, no, you don't. I didn't even check out right. I grabbed my duffel, tossed it in the passenger seat, and drove through the night. 8 hours of highway and white lines. No radio, no podcasts. Just the hum of the engine. And that drone shot burned into my head. The mansion, the pool, the driveway. My tiny little survey cap in the foreground like a joke. By the time the sky over Foxwood went from black to that gray blue of early morning, I was turning off the main road toward what used to be my scruffy little mud path. Only now, it was a crisp gravel drive with clean edges tire tracks, and at the end of it stood a tall steel gate with a keypad, blinking red like an eye, and 2 black security cameras staring down from the posts, plus a brand new white sign zip-tied to the bars that said in big, confident letters, Property of Maple Shore Estates, HOA. No trespassing. Violators will be prosecuted. And I swear for a second, it felt like somebody had unrolled a movie set on top of my memory. I walked up, boots crunching on expensive gravel. I didn't pay for, put my hand on the cold metal of the gate, and just stood there, looking past it at the mansion on the hill, the pool, the neat flower beds. Thinking this isn't a mix-up. This is a full-on invasion. I didn't have long to wonder who was behind it, because a dark blue BMW X5 came gliding down that driveway like it was on a commercial shoot. Stopped just inside the gate, and the driver's window lowered slowly. The way people do when they want you to know they're not in a rush, and you're not important, and sitting there behind the glass was a woman in her late 40s with a perfect blonde bob. Big designer sunglasses, a tan blazer tablet on her lap, and that tight little smile that says, I'm being polite because there are witnesses. Can I help you? She asked, voice sweet, but already annoyed. Yeah, I said, holding her gaze. You can start by opening my gate. I need to get onto my property. She tilted her head just a fraction. It's amazing how universal that you're an idiot angle is. And said, "This is Maple Shore Estates. Phase 3, it's private property under HOA jurisdiction. Owners and registered guests only. You live here?" "No," I said, "I own here." And I pulled out the folded deed I'd brought from the truck, holding it up to the glass. Parcel 43B, 5 acres backing on the creek, bought it last year. Surveyed it myself, those pins up there on the hill. That's my work, this house, this gate, this road. You built them on my land. She didn't even look at the paper. Our records show this lot was abandoned and annexed into Maple Shore for community expansion, she said, voice cooling. If you have an issue, you're welcome to take it up with Foxwood County zoning. Until then, you're trespassing. That word hit me like a slap, trespassing on my own dirt. You're Brenda Harlow, right? I asked. I'd heard the name before in town, people complaining about the Maple Shore HOA president who wrote violation letters about garbage cans and Christmas lights. Her jaw flickered for half a second. And you are the guy whose name is on the deed under your Phase 3 fantasy. I said, my voice coming out calmer than I felt. So here's the deal, Brenda. Either you open that gate and let me step onto my land, or you call the sheriff and explain why your HOA thinks it owns a parcel. The tax office says belongs to me. For a moment, it looked like she might crack. Then she gave me that tight, dead-eyed customer service smile and said, "Sir, that's your problem, not ours." Tapped her tablet, and the gate beeped twice like it was barking at me. That was it. She shut me out on my own land with one smug sentence. I turned, walked back to my truck, and drove straight to the courthouse, because yelling at a gate might feel good for 5 minutes, but it doesn't beat signatures and stamps. You know what I mean. Foxwood County Courthouse isn't pretty brick walls, the color of old pennies, faint smell of burnt coffee and toner, but it's where lines on a map actually mean something. So I went to records, gave the clerk my parcel number, and she slid a fat file across the counter. I sat down and started reading. Plats zoning proposals, HOA submissions, annexation drafts, and right there in the stack was a document titled Provisional Application, Absorption of Adjacent Non-Utilized Parcels into Maple Shore Estates. HOA Phase 3 with my parcel number smack in the middle and a notary signature and stamp from a man named Curtis Wren at the bottom, dated 2 months ago. Here's the thing, Curtis was dead. I don't mean retired out of town dead. I mean I stood in line at his visitation dead, 3 years gone and buried. So unless Maple Shore had a direct line to the afterlife, that stamp was a forgery. The county registrar, Henry, confirmed it in less than 10 seconds. Yeah, that's Curtis's old stamp. But he sure didn't use it on this, he said, checking his screen. And look at this. Someone filed an abandonment certification on your parcel. Checked the box that basically says, no active owner presumed deceased or non-responsive, requested expedited annexation to the HOA. Then, a couple weeks later, boom, temporary zoning ID gets assigned for community improvements on that hill. He pulled up utility records too, and that's where another little piece clicked into place. There were active connections going to a brand new LLC, Silver Ridge Investments, Inc., registered just 60 days earlier, managing member Logan Harlow, 27, Brenda's son. That's when the story stopped being neighbors made a mistake and became they planned this. And something in me hardened. Not the loud kind of anger, but the slow, heavy kind. Okay. You want to fight? Let's fight on ground. I know. I made copies of everything. Walked out of that courthouse hugging a folder full of proof, went back to the motel, and did what I do. best documented. I set up trail cameras along the new driveway, and by the gate, another hidden in the trees with a clear view of the pool and back deck, then waited. My phone started lighting up the next morning motion alerts from the driveway cam. And over the next couple days, I watched clips of Maple Shore HOA trucks rolling through my stolen gate. Grounds and Beautification printed real bold on the side. Workers unloading rolls of expensive sod. Decorative stone boxes stamped with codes for high-end irrigation systems. Pool supplies LED. Lighting each close-up frame I grabbed showed invoices with Maple Shore HOA listed as the payer. Not Silver Ridge, not Brenda, not Logan. There was a clip of Brenda herself walking out onto the patio, sunglasses on, pointing where she wanted lights, snapping for workers to move a chair, checking her tablet like a queen, doing her inspection. And I sat there thinking, my neighbor's dues are literally building this woman a secret lake resort on my land. So I spent a night editing, clipping, labeling timestamps, circling truck logos, then sent everything in a tidy little email to the district attorney, to the state board that deals with HOA abuse, to the county zoning office subject lines. Very calm and boring, like potential fraud and misuse of HOA funds. Supporting evidence attached because nothing gets attention. Like boring words hiding crazy pictures. A few days later, just when I was thinking, okay, maybe the system is actually going to work, I stumbled across the real estate listing that showed me just how bold Brenda really was. Right there on a high-end site, off-market modern Lakeview estate, private gated access, exclusive. HOA, no address, just coordinates asking price, just under $1 million. And a line saying clean private transfer. You know, no drama, definitely. No angry surveyor with a folder of forged documents. The agent's number was right there. So I called, lowered my voice into that boardroom tone, and said, I represent a couple from Florida who prefer quiet off-market purchases. They're ready to move quickly, as long as the title's clean. And the agent Danielle practically melted through the phone. Oh, this is perfect for them. It's a very clean situation. Very private. Let's do Thursday at noon. So we set it. Thursday rolls around. I park 2 streets over, hike in along my old deer trail, and watch from the tree line as Danielle stands at the gate in a sharp blazer, while a silver Mercedes glides up. This very polished couple gets out. You can just tell they say things like, "We summer at the lake," without irony. The gate opens. They walk up the driveway together, and right when Danielle starts her little sales pitch on the front steps, I step out of the trees and head down the slope. Sorry to interrupt your tour. I call, but before you write any checks, you might want to hear from the guy who actually owns the ground. Danielle's face drains of color, then snaps back red. Sir, you need to leave immediately. This is a private showing. She hisses. I hold up my folder like a shield. My name is Evan Cole Parcell, 43B. It's my land. Here's my deed. Here's the active criminal case number tied to this house for forged annexation. Fake notary stamps and HOA money. Paying for that pool. The husband steps closer, squints at the papers. The wife looks at Danielle and then at me, and I can see the exact moment the story shifts in their heads. So you're saying this house is illegal? The husband asks. I'm saying, I answer, if you buy it, you're signing up to spend the next 5 years explaining to judges why you thought it was a good idea to purchase a $1 million mansion built on land. The HOA pretended was abandoned with a dead man's signature on the paperwork. Yeah, that happened. They got back in their Mercedes, kicking gravel over Danielle's heels, and drove off without looking back. That little scene made its way to the internet fast. Somebody had their phone out. And suddenly, I was that guy in 100 comment sections, which Brenda did not appreciate. So her next move was trying to flip the script on me completely. A sheriff's deputy knocked on my motel door one afternoon, handed me a manila envelope, and said, "You've been served inside was a temporary restraining order. Request from Brenda." And reading it was like reading some twisted fan fiction version of my life. She swore under oath that I'd showed up at her house with an axe banged on her windows, screaming, stalked her through the neighborhood, to cut through the fence with bolt cutters. She even attached grainy screenshots of a blurry figure near a tree that could have been anyone. And suddenly on paper, I was the crazy, dangerous guy threatening the poor HOA president in her own home. You know that trick, right? When a bully starts calling you the bully the second you push back. My lawyer Robson sighed and said, "She's trying to make you radioactive." Evan, you made her look bad at that. Showing now she wants to paint you as unstable, so nobody listens when you say forgery or fraud. We'll fight it. Just don't give her anything real to point at, which is easier said than done. When your phone dings again with an email from your licensing board saying they received an anonymous complaint that you're using your surveying job to harass homeowners, and by anonymous, they mean we all know who sent this, but we're pretending not to. That was the low point for me, emotionally. Not the mansion, not the gate, but realizing this woman was trying to take the only thing I had left that felt like mine, my work, my name, and drag it through mud until people forgot. She was the one stealing land. Then my cameras saved me. One night around 3 in the morning, my phone buzzed on the nightstand. Motion detected. East boundary. I almost rolled over and ignored it, but something made me open the app, and there in that grainy black and white glow, I saw 2 figures in dark clothes slipping along the tree line. One, taller. One, shorter. Both with flashlights aimed low. They walked right up to one of my steel survey pins. The taller one grabbed it with both hands, twisted and yanked until it came out of the ground, then dropped it into a black trash bag. The other one was holding. Then they moved to the next pin, and the next, ripping out the very markers that proved where my land started and where Maple Shore ended. Even with their caps and the low light, I knew exactly who they were. Brenda and her son, Logan, out in the middle of the night, trying to erase physical evidence. That was my twist moment. That's when the story turned from maybe they'll lie their way out of this to you just gave the cops everything they need. I marched into the sheriff's office that morning with that footage on a thumb drive, handed it to Detective Harris, and watched his eyebrows climb as he hit play. When the video froze on Brenda stuffing my pin into the bag, he leaned back and said, "Well, Mr. Cole, you just handed us probable cause on a silver platter. This is no longer a neighborhood squabble. This is tampering with survey evidence, obstruction, trespassing, possibly a whole lot more once we see where the money went, and from there, things finally started moving in the right direction. Subpoenas went out. HOA bank statements came in. Contractors started talking. Residents started forwarding emails and recordings of emergency meetings where Brenda got chewed up by the very board that used to nod along with everything she said. And it all ended up in front of a judge who, thank God, still believed lines on a map and signatures mean something. You already know how that part ends. Injunction granted, mansion and pool under sheriff custody. Brenda and Logan ordered out within 24 hours. Then a final ruling that the house stays with the rightful landowner, me, And because they acted in bad faith, they don't get a single cent back for it. She walked into that courtroom as the HOA president, who thought she could write me off as abandoned, and she walked out facing fraud charges and losing everything she'd tried to steal. I wish I could tell you. I felt pure joy, like some movie moment where the hero pumps his fist in slow motion. But honestly, it felt more like a long exhale, like pressure finally letting go, like the ground under my feet had stopped sliding. And this is where people online always split into camps, and I'm genuinely curious which camp you'd be in if this was your story. Because on paper, I won. I got my land back. I got a house I never asked for. Maple Shore is trying to claw back their stolen dues from Brenda. Lawyers are circling, and I stand on that hill some mornings, looking at the big glass windows and that ridiculous pool, and I remember the little cabin. I wanted the simple life I pictured, and I think about everybody who paid their HOA bill, trusting that the board was doing the right thing. And I wonder what justice looks like now. Do I keep the mansion as payback and call it karma? Live in the very thing she built with stolen money on my stolen land? Do I sell it and try to make those homeowners whole, knowing I didn't steal their money, but I'm the one holding the keys now? Or do I level it and finally build that small, quiet cabin by the creek that started this whole mess? You know what I mean. So tell me in the comments what you would do if you were in my boots at 58 starting over, holding the title to a house that's half trophy, half crime scene. Tell me if you think HOAs have way too much power. If you've ever been on the wrong end of someone like Brenda, who thinks rules are for everyone but her, and if you stuck with me to the end of this story, hit like click. Subscribe if you want more real-life stories like this, and share your own HOA nightmare or justice moment down below. Because I promise you, I'm not the only person who's ever been told that's your problem, not ours, and decided we're all going to look at this together.